Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Occasionally I read something that is not mine that I want to share with you, and this is a short story, about 10 minutes long, by O. Henry, called The Whirligig of Life. Justice of the Peace Menadja Widdup sat in the door of his office, smoking his elder stem pipe. Halfway to the zenith, the Cumberland Range rose blue-gray in the afternoon haze. A speckled hen swaggered down the main street of the settlement, cackling foolishly. Up the road came a sound of creaking axles, and then a slow cloud of dust, and then a bull cart bearing Rancy Bilbro and his wife. The cart stopped at the justice's door, and the two climbed down. Rancy was a narrow 6 feet of sallow brown skin and yellow hair. The imperturbability of the mountains hung upon him like a suit of armor. The woman was calicoed, angled, snuff-brushed, and weary with unknown desires. Through it all gleamed a faint protest of cheated youth, unconscious of its loss. The justice of the peace slipped his feet into his shoes for the sake of dignity, and moved to let them enter. "We all," said the woman, in a voice that sounded like the wind blowing through the pine boughs, "wants a divorce." She looked at Rancy to see if he noted any flaw or ambiguity or evasion or partiality or self-partisanship in her statement of their business. "A divorce," repeated Rancy with a solemn down. "We can't all get along nohow together. It's lonesome enough for to live in the mountains when a man and woman confer with each other, but when she's a spitting like a wildcat or a sullen like a hoot owl in a cabin, a man can't get no call to live with her." "When he's a no-count varmint," said the woman, "without any especial warmth, a-traipsing along with scallywags and moonshiners and laying on his back with his coal and whiskey and pestering folks with a pack of hungry trifling hounds to feed." "When she keeps a-throwing skillet lads," came Rancy's antiphony, "and slings boiling water on the best coon dog in the Cumberlands and sets herself again cooking a man's victuals and keeps him awake all night accusing him of doing all sorts of doing. When he's all fighting the revenues and gets a hard name in the mountains for being a mean man, who's going to be able to sleep at night?" The justice of the peace stirred deliberately to his duties. He placed his one chair and a wooden stool for his petitioners. He opened his book of statutes on the table and scanned the index. Presently he wiped his spectacles and shifted his inkstand. "The laws and the statutes," said he, "are silent on the subject of divorce as far as the jurisdiction of this court are concerned. But according to equity and the Constitution and the Golden Rule, it's a bad bargain that can't run both ways. If a justice of the peace can marry a couple, it's plain that he's bound to be able to divorce them. This here office will issue a decree of divorce and abide by the decision of the Supreme Court to hold it good." Rancy Bilbro drew a small tobacco bag from his trousers pocket. Out of this he shook upon the table a $5 note. "Sold a bear skin, and 2 foxes for that," he remarked. "It's all the money we got." "The regular price of a divorce in this court," said the justice, $5. He stuffed the bill into the pocket of his homespun vest with a deceptive air of indifference. With much bodily toil and mental travail, he wrote the decree upon a half a sheet of foolscap, and then copied it on to the other. Rancy Bilbro and his wife listened to his reading of the document that was to give them freedom. "Know all men by these presents that Rancy Bilbro and his wife Ariella Bilbro this day personally appeared before me and promises that hereinafter they will neither love, honor, nor obey each other, neither for better nor worse, being of sound mind and body, and accept summons for divorce according to the peace and dignity of the state. Herein fail not, so help you God. Benadja Willett, Justice of the Peace, in and for the County of Piedmont, State of Tennessee. The justice was about to hand one of the documents to Rancy. The voice of Ariella delayed the transfer. Both men looked at her. Their dull masculinity was confronted by something sudden and unexpected in the woman.
Judge, don't you give him that air paper yet. 'T ain't all settled nohow. I got to have my rights first. I got to have alimony. 'Tain't no kind of way to do a fur man to divorce his wife, though her having a cent fur to do with. I'm a layin' off to be a goin' to my brother Ed's up on Hogsback Mountain. I'm bound for to have a pair of shoes and some snuffin' things beside. If Rance can afford a divorce, let him pay me alimony.
Rancy Bilbro was stricken to dumb perplexity. There had been no previous hint of alimony. Women were always bringing up startling and unlooked-for issues. Justice Benadja Willett felt that the point demanded judicial decision. The authorities were also silent on the subject of alimony, but the women's feet were bare. The trail to Hogback Mountain was steep and flinty. "Ariella Bilbro," he asked in official tones, "how much do you allow would be good and sufficient alimony in case before the court here?"
"I allow, for the shoes and all, say $5. That ain't much for alimony, but I guess that'll get me up to Brother Ed's."
"The amount," said the justice, "is not unreasonable. Rancy Bilbro, you are divorced by the court to pay the plaintiff the sum of $5 before the decree of divorce is issued."
"I ain't got no money," breathed Rancy heavily. "I done paid you all I had."
"Otherwise," said the justice, looking severely over his spectacles, "you are in contempt of court."
"I reckon if you give me till tomorrow," pleaded the husband, "I might be able to rake or scrape it up somewheres. I never been looking to pay no alimony."
"The case are adjourned," said Benadja Willett, "till tomorrow, when you will all present yourselves and obey the order of the court, following of which the decrees of divorce will be delivered." He sat down in the door and began to loosen a shoestring.
"We might as well go to Uncle Zea's," decided Rancy, "and spend the night."
He climbed into the cart on one side, and Ariella climbed in the other. Obeying the flap of his rope, the little red bull slowly came around on a tack, and the cart crawled away in the nimbus arising from its wheels. Justice of the Peace Benadja Willett smoked his elder stem pipe. Late in the afternoon he got his weekly paper and read it until the twilight dimmed its lines. Then he lit the tallow candle on his table and read until the moon rose, marking the time for supper. He lived in the double log cabin on the slope near the girdled poplar. Going home to supper, he crossed a little branch darkened by a laurel thicket. The dark figure of a man stepped from the laurels and pointed a rifle at his breast. His hat was pulled down low, and something covered most of his face.
"I want your money," said the figure. "That ain't talk. I'm getting nervous, and my finger's getting a wobbling here on this here trigger."
I've got only $5, said the justice, producing it from his vest pocket.
"Roll it up," came the order, "and stick it in the end of this here gun barrel."
The bill was crisp and new. Even fingers that were clumsy and trembling found little difficulty in making a spill of it and inserting it, this with less ease, into the muzzle of the rifle.
"Now I reckon you better go along," said the robber.
The justice lingered not on his way. The next day came the little red bull, drawing the cart to the office door. Justice Benadja Willett had his shoes on, for he was expecting the visit. In his presence, Rancy Bilbro handed to his wife a $5 bill. The official's eye sharply viewed it. It seemed to curl up as though it had been rolled and inserted into the end of a gun barrel. But the justice refrained from comment. It is true that other bills might be inclined to curl. He handed each one a decree of divorce. Each stood awkwardly silent, slowly folding the guarantee of freedom. The woman cast a shy glance full of constraint at Rancy.
"I reckon you'll be going back up to the cabin," she said, along with the bull cart. "There's bread in this tin box sitting on the shelf. I put the bacon in the boiling pot to keep the hounds from getting it. Don't forget to wind the clock tonight." "You ain't going to your brother Ed's?" asked Rancy with fine unconcern. "I was lowing to get up there right before night. I ain't saying they'll pester themselves any way to make me welcome, but I ain't nowhere else to fur to go. It's a right smart way, and I reckon I better be going. I'll be a-saying goodbye, Rancy, and that is, if you care for to say so." "I don't know anybody's a hound dog," said Rancy in a martyr's voice, "for to not want to say goodbye, unless you are so anxious to get away you don't want me to say goodbye."
Ariella was silent. She folded the $5 bill and her decree carefully, and placed them in the bosom of her dress. Benajah Widdop watched the money disappear with mournful eyes behind his spectacles. And then, with his next words, he achieved rank, as his thoughts ran, with either the great crowd of the world's sympathizers or the little crowd of its great financiers.
"Be kind of lonesome in the old cabin tonight, Rance," he said.
Rancy Bilbro stared out at the Cumberlands, clear blue now in the sunlight. He did not look at Ariella.
"I allow it might be lonesome," he said, "but when folks get mad and wants a divorce, you can't make select people stay." "There's others that want a divorce," said Ariella, speaking to the wooden stool. "Besides, nobody don't want nobody to stay. Nobody never said they didn't. Nobody never said they did. I reckon I better start on now to Brother Ed's. Nobody can wind the old clock." "You want me to go back with you in the cart and wind it for you, Rance?"
The mountaineer's countenance was proof against emotion, but he reached out a big hand and enclosed Ariella's thin brown one. Her soul peeped out once through her impassive face, hallowing it.
"Them hounds shan't pester you no more," said Rancy. "I reckon I've been mean and low down. You wind that clock, Ariella." "My heart's hid in that cabin, Rance, along with you. I ain't a-going to get mad no more. Let's be starting, Rance, so we can get home by sundown." Justice of the peace, Benajah Widdop interposed as they started for the door, forgetting his presence. "In the name of the state of Tennessee," he said, "I forbid you all to be defiant of its laws and statutes. This court is more than willing and full of joy to see the clouds of discord and misunderstanding rolling away from two loving hearts, but it are the duty of this court to preserve the morals and the integrity of the state. The court reminds you that you are no longer man and wife, but are divorced by regular decree, and as such are not entitled to the benefits and appurtenances of the matrimonial estate."
Ariella caught Rancy's arm. Did those words mean she must lose him now, when they had just learned the lesson of life?
"But the court are prepared," went on the justice, "for to remove the disabilities set up by this decree of divorce. The court are on hand to perform the solemn ceremony of marriage, thus fixing things up and enabling the parties in the case to resume the honorable and elevating state of matrimony which they desires.
The fee for performance said ceremony will be, in this case, to wit, $5. Ariella caught the gleam of promise in his words. Swiftly her hand went to her bosom. Freely as an alighting dove, the bill fluttered to the justice's table. Her sallow cheek colored as she stood hand in hand with Rancy and listened to the reuniting words. Rancy helped her into the cart and climbed in beside her. The little red bull turned once more, and they set out, hand-clasped, for the mountains. Justice of the Peace Benajah Widdop sat in his door and took off his shoes. Once again he fingered the bill tucked down in his vest pocket. Once again he smoked his elder stem pipe. Once again the speck-led hen swaggered down the main street of the settlement, cackling foolishly. In any event, that's the Whirligig of Life by O. Henry. As usual, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel, and certainly would welcome you to take a look at any of my 35 books. Perhaps most relevant to this is relationship stories, but all 35 are on Amazon. In any event, I thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.